This is before. So this is the partial eclipse as the moon is orbiting the Earth and moving between the Earth and the sun and is going to create the total eclipse. So this is before. And my friend Michelle Jensen is here with me. Michelle has taught me quite a few things about this eclipse. Michelle, in your pictures, you were able to see a lot more. Do you want to tell us about that?
I was really fortunate. My pictures, I not only got the corona, I got Baily's beads his totality was going through, which is where you can kind of see the shape of the moon a little bit and the sun peeking through the valleys along the edge of the moon. And I got the diamond ring effect where you see the sun as the moon's finishing its track across and the sun's starting to come back out, which is, of course, the time where you've got to put glasses and filters back on. I also got a rare occurrence called a solar prominence, which is where basically there's a little solar flare going on, and it looks almost like some of the people we were with thought it was a planet along the bottom edge of the sun. But no, it's a solar prominence, and this is not a common occurrence during an eclipse. And some of the professionals I'm reading today about this are saying this was like, maybe a once in a lifetime thing to see a solar prominence during a total eclipse like that.
Wow, it sounds like you got some great pictures. Now, Michelle and I started our day down in Austin, Texas, because a year in advance of the eclipse, we had looked at the path of totality, and Michelle contacted me and said, we need to be in Austin because that is going to be the best place to be for this eclipse. So we arranged with my friend Martha to stay at her lake house there just north of Austin in Burnett. And what did we find the day before, Michelle?
Well, I mean, the day before, the weather down there in Burnett was just absolutely beautiful. It was supposed to be overcast, so we were really hopeful that maybe we'd get lucky because the forecast for the whole side of Texas that was in totality was not looking real good. And we kept watching the cloud cover predictions, which is very, very fuzzy science, very hard to predict where cloud cover is going to be at what time. And it just was not looking very good for the Burnett area when we got up that morning.
So, Michelle, there we were. We were looking at the weather the day before, refreshing the weather apps, trying to see if the meteorologists would change. But as you said, it's hard to predict clouds, even with all of the amazing modeling software that we have for weather people. And so what did we do the morning of the 8th?
Well, I started before I even got out of bed. I was on my phone checking the weather for Burnett and the predicted cloud cover for a few hours later. Saw it was a tiny bit better than the day before, but it was still 70%. There was a couple of cities within a few hours drive that we had talked about going back towards the Austin direction from Burnett towards,
Rockdale.
Rockdale. They were looking at about 80% cloud cover. We looked at a couple places further north. In McKinney, Texas, at that moment, up near Dallas, was showing 45% predicted cloud cover. And I said, we need to go to McKinney. We have friends up there. We can probably hang with them for a few minutes so we know we've got a place where we can safely sit. And Julie was not really on board with this.
All right, real talk. It is a 5-hour drive from where we were in Burnett to up to McKinney. And I was concerned about the traffic with all of the other people chasing the eclipse. What are they called? Penumbra files. Penumbra being the shadow of the moon, and files meaning to love. So to love the shadow of the moon, those are people who chase eclipses. But Michelle looked like she was ready to steal my car keys. And so I agreed to drive up to McKinney, and we had a road trip. It was quite fun.
It was. I could not find even one of the shared car services where you borrow somebody else's car. There was absolutely nothing available for any price in the area. And I mean, Julie was fine with sitting by the lake and hoping for some clearer air and visiting with her absolutely amazing friend Martha and just having a wonderful day by the lake. I wanted to see the eclipse. I came all that way. I wanted to at least make my best shot at seeing it and was willing to do just about anything to make it happen. So Julie finally said, okay, let's go. The trip actually from Burnett up to the Dallas area went really well. Traffic was fantastic. We got to McKinney, and amazingly, as we got to the park near our friend's house, the skies started to clear. We started to get some sun, and it was a fantastic time sitting there for a couple of hours watching things happen.
Absolutely. And Michelle, I said it was a 5 hour drive, but it was actually a 4 hour drive. So we did get to enjoy the eclipse with our friends in the park. It was absolutely fabulous. And Michelle, one of the reasons why you were so excited about this eclipse is that the next one is going to be in 20 years. Now, I'm saying that with a caveat. The next eclipse in North America,
Lower North America.
in lower North America,
Lower 48.
okay, lower 48 is going to be in 20 years. Now, tell me why you made that distinction.
There will be a total eclipse that crosses Alaska in 9 years, which would be like 2033, I believe. But the area of Alaska it's crossing is not highly populated. The main city that's going to be in the path is Nome, Alaska. And Nome is, yeah, it's a city, but it's a small city. And they don't necessarily, they're going to have an interesting time because I'm sure it's going to be like this one where a lot of people are going to want to come in. And I think they have less than 200 hotel rooms for the entire town. And it's a more isolated area. Of course, it's more expensive and harder to travel to Alaska than it is to, say, Houston or the Northeast or something like this eclipse was. And by the time we get to the next one, I mean, we never know what life's going to throw at us. I'm healthy and able to travel right now. In 20 years, maybe I won't be. I didn't want to get through this eclipse and say I didn't at least try.
Excellent. And so we're very glad that we had this adventure and got these gorgeous pictures and this gorgeous video that I'm able to share with all of you. And yeah, the next one is in 20 years in the lower 48 states. So that is 2044. And then there'll be another one in 2045. Michelle, I had read online that if you take red and green during a total eclipse, they look different. But I took pictures of them and they looked exactly the same before, during, and after the eclipse. Now, why did that happen? Why didn't they look different?
Cameras see things very differently than our eyes see things. The color shifts that we see during an eclipse with our eyes has to do with the rods and the cones in our eyes and how we see color vision. Sorry. And normally as dusk comes in the evening, it comes in very slowly and our eyes have time to adjust. And so things just continue looking normal and just a little darker as some of the rods become more active and cones less active. And I may have those backwards for the colors and stuff. But during an eclipse, the process happens so fast as totality approaches and it gets much darker. Our eyes are not able to adjust to that light that fast. And so we've got greens and blues will become much more vivid for people who have normal color vision, and reds will get darker or even turn gray. So it makes an interesting visual effect. And if you notice, Julie, I said when we were looking at it, I was like, look at the light. And you think, okay, well, it's kind of like dusk, right? But the sun is so much higher in the sky. When the sun is setting in the evening, the way the rays of the sun are coming through the atmosphere is different than when the sun's high in the sky. So that's why you can look at the sun during a sunset because of the refraction. When the sun's high in the sky, you can't look at it, but now we've got the moon in front of it, so you can look at it because there's much less light. So the angle of the light's different, and everything has this. The tone was kind of almost like a sepia, like an old portrait or something. It was not exactly like dusk. And you just look around at the trees and everything, the light was very, very weird.
And what is that effect called? There isn't there an
The first one with the reds and greens with our eyes is called the Purkinge effect.
Let's talk for a minute about the animals.
Okay.
We did not go to a zoo, but if we had, the different animals would have different reactions. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we did see a little bit of animal effects. Some of the birds that are a little more active in the evening as the eclipse started, or a little bit less active. They started to quiet down. Some of the bigger birds stopped flying around. They acted like it was evening, but we didn't have a lot of animals around us to really see anything. A friend of mine was at a zoo in Indiana, Illinois, someplace along the eclipse path in totality, and she was by the lemurs. And as totality approached, the lemurs started getting really excited and they got very active and stuff. And then when it got into totality, they just went quiet, like it was complete night and it was time to go to bed. And then as the light started coming out again, they got a little bit more active again, just like they would in the evening, because they're that kind of creatures. It was really interesting for them to see how that changed.
Absolutely. Yes, so nocturnal animals, the ones that like to play at night, might come out, and the animals that like to sleep at night might bed down and think that it's time to go get ready for bed.
Other times people report that during totality, owls start hooting.
Oh, very interesting. Now, again, I did not notice any of that where we were, but that's very interesting that maybe next time in 20 years, Michelle, we should go to a zoo and observe the animals. What do you think?
That's a great idea.
Excellent. And Michelle, you're not an astronomer, are you?
No.
So what is your interest in eclipses?
Mostly the fantastic photography opportunity. It's a rare event. It's something that most people might get to see if they're lucky once or twice in a lifetime. And I've always been interested in photography, but about 8 years ago, I got my first quote unquote real camera and started really delving into photography. And it's challenging photography, and it's a lot of fun. And to get to photograph something so rare and to say I saw this myself and be able to look back through the pictures and in the years coming and stuff and look at what I did is fantastic.
That's great. I love the smile on your face as you're sharing this with me. And thank you for letting me share in this event with you. So we'll be sharing more pictures here and on my Instagram page, and I'll link to that. Oh, look, there it is on the screen. Thank you all for coming here today to look at the pictures of the eclipse, the video of the eclipse. It was quite the experience. Any last words, Michelle?
Wow.
Yes.
Pudding.
Pudding. Yeah, for those of you who haven't followed me very long, pudding is our word for we're having an adventure.
Yes.
So pudding indeed. I hope all of you enjoyed it. And a quick word, Michelle. There was an eclipse last year, October 20th of 2023. Where were you during that eclipse?
probably home. I believe that one was that an annular?
It was a partial eclipse, and
Yeah.
for that I was in New Mexico, so I saw a partial. Where I was a partial eclipse, but it did go through the southwest United States. So thank you again for arranging this one so that we could go, and for being my road trip buddy. And thank you to all the fans that tuned in. Keep your interest in astronomy, keep your curiosity, and have a great day.